All right, we're live Sunday, as always, 6 p.m. Central. Hopefully, you're hanging out. We always talk for an hour ahead of time, and time always sneaks up on me. I'll be chatting, and then all of a sudden, oh, I gotta go live in 2 minutes, and then I gotta scramble. So here I am. My Roomba, or my vacuum I was running, is now emptying itself on camera, so that's awesome. Um, yeah, so where do we want to start today? Didn't really have a topic. Hoping you guys bring questions. Good things for discussion is always nice, or just answering your own problematic things in your own aquariums. I did follow up on a lot of the tasks over the last couple of weeks, like posting to the forum. I'll get a bunch of announcement type things right out of the way here, just so we can jump into it. If you want text notifications when we go live, release a video or a new product, that here is in the chat, or it's in the product or in the description of the video. You can sign up there and get a text message, and we send that out an hour before we go live, so you can come hang out and chat. It's one of the best ways you can talk directly to me or a bunch of other people that hang out and get your questions answered for your tanks and stuff. So, kind of low key, about up to 100-ish people hanging out in the chat beforehand usually. And then I've made a few posts on the forum relating to like membership, trying to get ideas and feedback and things like that. And then I made a post about barbs in general. I've been talking about that on kind of crowdsourcing with everyone else's opinions and not opinions, experiences in what will eat algae. In fact, I added some gold barb algae after the recommendation last live stream, and I think these red ones are going to go in the 800 gallon. I just haven't caught them out yet, but I want to see, if the gold ones are good at eating algae. Also, I don't have any algae right now, so I got to make some, but you guys can help with that. Black ruby barbs, mascara barbs. Lots of people are chiming in going, hey, they did this for me. I want to get some pictures and document some evidence so that we can hopefully get a short list of, hey, these fish look cool, and I would keep them as a pet, and they happen to be a great algae eater, as opposed to just the standard ones that we would always recommend. And then also I made a thread about the assassin snail and how I do think it eats planaria. I'm not planaria free, but boy howdy, are they hard to find since I went with assassin snails. I'm looking for other people to document their things. I would basically be convinced, and I'm happy to recommend that I do believe they are handling the problem as I specified in the post. I can't guarantee they're eating them. They might be out competing them. There might be some other thing going on, but when adding adult assassin snails, result seems to be way less planaria from at feeding time, hundreds and hundreds on the glass. Not hundreds and hundreds, but like 100 on the glass, to now when I feed, I can go weeks without seeing one. So that's quite a bit of a reduction, and that was with the tank full of snails, so they were doing double duty, and they have still a bunch of snails, so maybe that slowed them down a little bit. But really the goal is trying to still centralize everything on the forum for everybody so that we have a repository that is accessible to anybody. You don't have to be a member of Facebook or YouTube or anything like that, and it's searchable by Google, and you can come back to it. Like, I hadn't posted anything on this fish room in over 2 years on that thread. So yesterday I took some pictures and updated kind of what's going on in the fish room on that build thread. So if you haven't been watching us for a long time, you can actually go there and you can see when I was buying this house, and the guy had his, like, what was it, like 65 Stingray Corvette or whatever in here, and like there's concrete everywhere, and these right behind me was a garage door. So there's two garage doors here. And just kind of see overall in the years, like now it's been like, what, 3 years or something, 3.5, how it's all changed from this was just a garage with oil spills everywhere to now it's a fish room, and it's warm, and it's got, wood instead of drywall that's all beat up and that kind of stuff, and aquariums. So kind of evolving, and that, all that stuff was posted in videos and on Facebook, but it gets lost with time. Like, you'd have to go, which video? And I couldn't even tell you. Be like, look like 3.5 years ago, start looking for fish room build type videos, I think. And even then, pictures capture different than video. You get that freeze frame, boom, there it is. I want to take a picture of this. And like, I didn't have video of, for instance, some of the first things because it didn't make sense. There was other people here. It wasn't just me. I was taking pictures. So, Easy Nano, the Magic Nano. Still doing amazing. Up to 33 reviews. Thank you to everyone that's left a review. So far, all positive ones. I'm sure we'll get the first chink in the armor of like, oh, my fish, or I hate it. And then I'll just go, oh, that's a bummer. But so glad you guys are leaving the reviews and you're loving it. A lot of people, I don't officially describe it this way, but you're not wrong that it really feeds out basically like it's live baby brine shrimp. It's similar and it fills that need, but I don't. My job is to tell you, hey, I think this is pretty good. I never want to try and go, hey, this is the best thing ever since sliced bread. Oversell and underdeliver. I'd rather go, hey, this is pretty darn good. And then you guys go, actually, it's amazing. Like, well, I'm glad you feel that. I feel that way too, but I don't want to sell it that way. Don't jinx it. No, we need bad reviews too. You need good and bad reviews, because right now, if you were skeptical, you'd be like, they're filtering out the bad reviews. Honestly, we just haven't gotten one yet. They will always come. You will always, someone will be like, my dog hates this food. And you're like, it's not meant for dogs. Or, does terrible in my saltwater tank. Like, wasn't designed for that. Hadn't tested there. There's always a way it can be bad. It could also, hey, it arrived broken in a package. Sometimes people leave that review too. Has anybody gotten the new boxes yet? We've been sending them for a little while. Most people probably just don't know we have new boxes that we're shipping out in certain sizes. So we're trying to level up even more and keep up with just the rising costs of everything. And now we're doing Captain Insano print runs on boxes where we're buying boxes $15,000 at a time or something. And when you do buy them that way, you can have them printed. And so we're having them printed, and kind of is cool to see your branding on there, I guess. That's, we've had the tape for a long time, but now we've got, some of our own boxes. So always cool. Someone said, can we talk about reactors? Media reactors specifically. I definitely can. I've used some in the past. I'm not a big user of them because I typically, the way I keep aquariums, I go out of my way to add the fewest things possible. And so in day-to-day aquariums, like of the, let's say, well, now I had 14 aquariums over here. You guys haven't seen that yet, but now I can't say I have 15 aquariums. Now I've got like 30 again. But in the 30 aquariums I'm running, none of them use carbon or any resins or purigens or anything like that. And so what a media reactor is, in case you don't know what it is, but usually it's going to be like a container that you will put some kind of media in, and the reactor part means there's going to be some reaction that goes on in there. And sometimes it's tumbling it in there, sometimes it's just funneling it through, but the reaction happens whether it's carbon absorbing or purigen or a different resin or a Phosgard or something like that. We're trying to usually absorb something, create a reaction there, absorb it, and then we'll filter water through that and pull it out of the water and return it back to the aquarium. And there's a million different little ways to do that. In fact, you could argue that your basic filter, a hang-on back, is kind of a reactor at that point as well, because you're getting that reaction. But I don't use them a whole lot. The closest thing I would use to a reactor, I would say at this point, is at the store I have these big old, I'll do a video on that at some point. I have these big old, basically carbon block filters to remove chlorine out of the water. We installed three of them, which was thousands of dollars to do, but we wanted that extra layer of security, and I'll tell you the whole story eventually when we have everything worked out and it makes sense to tell the story. And then we also run a much bigger system at the warehouse that will even pull out chloramine. And so I should probably do a video between both of those now that I have used them and can speak a little bit more to it, because it makes sense for a lot of stores and big fish room people, and honestly even small fish rooms too, to a point. I think, a fish room this size, dechlorinator still makes a lot of sense, honestly. But if you start getting too much bigger than this, or you really want to automate, or you got a store, using a carbon block filter could definitely be beneficial. When it comes to reactors, I find that they're mostly, I think, Band-Aids. Every once in a while you'll have tap water, something that's got way too much of something, and you have to pull it out. That's a different thing, I think. But reactors are, in my opinion, they help do less water changes, which I almost think that doing almost anything is more work than a water change. If you've set up water changes correctly, where you're using a hose system and not buckets, and you're living in a country or a state where water's not insanely expensive, because sometimes that happens as well. But I think a lot of times people will start with a media reactor thinking, hey, this is going to make my tank better. And we kind of have that false sense, I think, of adding money to an aquarium, it will have a better outcome. And I'm not convinced that's always true. Sometimes you spent so much time setting it up that you would have been better off just cleaning your aquarium or trimming plants or checking on your other equipment. And so I think sometimes it leads us down the wrong rabbit hole. And I think I think CO2 does that quite a bit for planted tanks, honestly. Not that it's not really important, but people just assume that's going to be the key when they don't have the other basics. Every day I spend a lot of time, people go, hey, what do? Got algae, plants aren't looking so hot. And then I always respond with, let's get the basics. Can I get a picture of the tank? Can I get what fertilizer you're using? And the lighting schedule and light. And basically with those, there's almost always like, well, I put a fertilizer in sometimes, and lighting some is a lot, and then I turn it off sometimes. And so without covering those two basic steps, it's the perfect recipe. It's kind of like you're having trouble baking a cake, and you're asking for help, and then you go, oh, okay, what recipe are you using? Well, I put some flour, some water, and some eggs together, and then I put it in the oven, and it doesn't really work. And it's like, oh, well, let's start with measuring. Yeah, I'm not really into that. I kind of just eyeball it. And it's like, sure, but you're not getting the results. So you do a lot of kind of, let's get to what we know. And I've been thinking about that topic kind of a lot, actually. Today when I was walking out here, and just in general, I keep thinking about the longer we're in the hobby, the more confident we get, which means we gloss over the things that are really important. Just a second here. And what I mean by that is you'll run into, Dean will be a great example, like he'll be having trouble with a fish or something, like I can't get to spawn. And I'll say like, well, what's the water testing? Well, okay, I'm testing the water. Like, you're just so sure it's not the water quality. But the problem is like 1 out of 20 times it is the water quality. Like, oh, I didn't realize my thing was doing a thing. And what I watch myself do, and my employees and customers and things like that, the sooner we start from step one and work our way through, the faster we get a better result. And I see it all the time in my own life and my wife will attest to this every time, is we'll buy something that has to be put together. I will get it 80% of the way there, 90% of the way there without even looking at the directions. Like, oh, that makes sense. And then you'll be like, I can't get this last part. Like, what's the deal? And then you finally crack open the instructions, go, okay, I did that. I had to do that at that step. Otherwise, this step's impossible. Now I dismantle 60% of it, do the step that is non-skippable, and then you finish the project. And so often, that happens 8 out of 10 times. Had I just made myself read the directions every single time, I would actually come out at a net positive for saving time. But somehow, I know what I'm doing supersedes the being cautious and doing it correctly. And I watch that happen in our hobby all the time, of like, I got so many tanks, I know what I'm doing. And then when you force someone to go through the steps, the proof will be like, oh, but you don't, because your nitrates are out of control, or your water temperature's wrong, or looks like when I actually did this, my lighting timer was broken, or this thing was this. And I can give examples of that just even from today, right? So I've got my heat, it was set for, a long time at 74 degrees. And I was like, yeah, my aquariums, they're a little bit cool, around 71-ish, and I really want to start breeding some more fish and making them bigger. And so I turned it up to 78 degrees. And what would you think that my water temperature is? My water temperature in the 40 breeders, I've got all of my stuff right here, and someday I'll show you guys that more in depth. But outside of my house right now, it's 46.2 degrees. And in my fish room, the guppy rack's at 73.4, and my 40 breeders are 74.7. So, what have I learned? 78, need a few more days, but that might not be hot enough. If I truly want 76 or so in the tanks, I might have to run to 80 to 82 out here. Now, I still turn on AC when I'm out here because I don't like being that hot all the time. But by spot checking in the summer is a lot different than knowing the temperature and seeing it documented and plotted out for you. And that's what we see it happen with brine shrimp all the time. People will be hatching brine shrimp well, then they start hatching brine shrimp poorly. A lot of times it'll get colder in their room, and they were setting it up during the summer. Now it's winter and it's running 4 or 5 degrees cooler. That adds like a day of hatch time. And so the other thing we also see a lot is that they don't clean well enough. And so when you don't have a good clean sterile hatchery, you get a lot of funky stuff going on. And so we've had it happen in the store, we've had it happen in my fish room, we've had it happen in customers. You basically got to sterilize and then magically like, oh, it hatches super good again. And yeah, it's like, well, a lot of bacteria and stuff was building up. You got to kind of reset it sometimes. Stephen P. Wife says, email the company for help. Me, absolutely not. That's pretty much me too. I want to figure it out. Part of it is the challenge of figuring it out. And then it's the admitting of defeat. And I hate let me email the company. Most companies, it's a few day turnaround, and that drives me insane. I don't have that time in my life. I'm like, I need this to work today. Are you using Yolink products to monitor your temperatures? I am, yeah. I've got a couple of extra sensors right here. I don't have any on my desk to really show you, but yeah, the Yolink sensors, I'm enjoying quite a bit. And I've got them set up at the store. We've got them set up at the warehouse. We've got them set up here in my fish room. And also monitoring humidity, which is nice, just to make sure, like we run a lot of dehumidifiers, whether it's in the store, the warehouse, or in the fish room here. And like right now, my humidity, even with all the kind of the open top 10 gallons, and I can spill water in here quite often, the humidity in this is running at 60% right now. The low let's see, the low has been about 50. So what that does, when you can actually plot and see what things happen over time, you can see, how does it affect when I leave the garage door open because I'm moving stuff in? How does it affect when I'm changing settings on the heat recovery ventilation system or the dehumidifier? It also can alert you to things like, hey, maybe your filter's getting clogged on one of those devices because it's getting less efficient and your humidity's going up or anything like that. And so I might do a bigger project because I love doing the projects that make absolutely no sense for you to do as a home hobbyist, but could teach the hobby something. And so the project I'm thinking about right now, what if all of these tanks, I took off all the tops, because like the 800 gallon, a lot of surface area, there's no tops on that one. And same with my 230 gallon, all these 10 gallons and the 40 breeders. And we let the settings kind of go as high as they can go, right? Just like turn off my dehumidifiers and be like, this is what it would be like. It'd be like a swamp in here, all right? And then we turn on the dehumidifiers. We let that do its work for like a week. And then we come back in and we go, let's seal up every tank we could. And then see what that humidity is like. And what I know just from doing this for almost 20 years is tops make a huge difference in heat. So like, for instance, we were just looking at these two tanks, right? The 10 gallon, smaller than the 40 breeder, obviously, but one has tops and one doesn't. And the one without tops is running, they are running, let me find that for you guys real quick. They are running at 73.4. The 40 breeders have 3/4 of a top. They're running at 74.7. I would wager a decent amount of money that I will get that degree back when I put tops on that aquarium over there, even just 3/4, so I can still feed easily and everything. And so that's just 1 degree in free heat, in my opinion. And so I really think that most people should be using lids, and usually you'll get like 2 degrees if you have a full fitting lid. And that can be huge during power outages and just energy savings and humidity as well. And I'm big into efficiency. That's kind of how all of our products in my business and my life runs. If it's not efficient, it starts driving me nuts. And so I'm usually trying to make things efficient based on price and functionality and all of these things, because my thought process is, if I run, for instance, all these lights and they're all running at lower power and saving me money, when I need to buy the next light or the next food or the next aquarium, that one is basically now free because I've saved that. So things like an air pump to run all the sponge filters, by buying a linear air piston pump, it uses 46 watts compared to one canister filter uses 46 watts. All that money I save year after year goes into the next thing that if I buy efficient again, and that's how you get a store that's like, wait, your power bill's only a few $100s? How's that possible? Like, well, I'm not running all the expensive lighting that is much cheaper. I'm running expensive lighting that was expensive to buy. I said that wrong. I'm not running cheap lighting that will put out a lot of light. I'm using expensive lights that put out a lot of light, but they do it very efficiently. And that efficiency leads to long-term savings. Hayden Shores says, I just went to Fish Happens in Indy. Super cool store. Lots of your products are there. Super happy. It's my new local fish store. Glad to hear it. Good, good, good. Yes, take the tops off and see how loud that fish room can get with the water turbulence. Not very, actually. So I should do, it's such a pain, but there is an audible difference between the air collars and not air collars. So much so that people that redo their stores notice it as well. I'm hesitant to do that because I'm lazy, but I could do an auditory thing as well to show you that difference. Because you would dampen the sound by putting tops on, but the air collars right now are so quiet that you don't even need the top also. So it would the noise floor, I can get it down so low where it's quieter than a quiet library. So, lower than that, you get some diminishing returns. And you might go, well, I can get an air pump that will run at 3 watts less, but it's 2 times the price. That doesn't really help, I think. Well, I mean, yes, if they're the same price, you would buy that one, or you had it laying around, you would, but I wouldn't go out of my way to be like, ooh, this pays itself back in 26 years. I've been really enjoying feeding my pistos planaria that keep munching on my baby shrimps. Snagged an RO unit to help with the breeding recently. Nice. I've never had to use an RO unit. I've got some pistos right now, very hard water. I'm starting with, can I force them to breed in my water before I would start doctoring water? So far, 98% of anything I've ever tried to breed will breed in my tap water with enough care. The only thing that's ever eluded me is actually crystal shrimp. I had to use specific substrate to get the pH where it needed to be. Everything else I've been able to that I've set out to do. Now, that doesn't mean every fish would. There are fish that would not, but I also have not tried to spawn them. So that's why I don't count them against me yet. There's also, there's fish that want to breed in the pHs of 5s and stuff, and that just gets really difficult as a hobbyist to keep that long term. Let's see. One of my zebra plecos is out right now, which is fun. I love when you get to see the elusive fish, the ones that you're like, you have them, they don't like hanging out with you, and yeah. Chicken of the Sea just got a mid-roll ad. So I want to clear this up because I did document the process for YouTube this week. The only ads you should get as in with the settings I have set, the only ad you should get is when you join the live stream or you start watching the live stream, you should get an ad. Now, if you've just been watching for 20 minutes and now you get an ad, that should not be happening. We had someone that said, hey, I get an ad every time I come to the live stream, as in it took them 4 watches to finish the live stream. That is intended. Every time you start the live stream, it's going to serve you an ad. I have to give you an ad. But the mid-roll ad shouldn't be happening, and we're literally recording this process to try and show them this should not be happening. Why is it happening? Help me stop this from happening. You guys support us with memberships and buying from us and doing all those things. We don't need the extra ad revenue per se at this exact moment. And so I'm trying to get a better user experience for you and always balance everything in the efficiency, right? Make it efficient. And so hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that for everybody. What's a good light for a 7-gallon rimless tank? Well, it depends on dimensions. I used to have some 7 gallons that were very tall, And yeah, that light is different. I knew you were going to bring me that. I should have gone on my way to tell you I don't want that.
Just leave it here then. Don't drink it.
I don't want it cold, so I'll let it cool down a little bit. Thank you. I bet. It's lots of rain today, over an inch so far, and it's only 3 p.m. here, so surprised you didn't drown on the way out. So the 7-gallon aquarium, if it's tall, is a different thing than if it's long and wide, but I really like what we sell, for if I'm recommending that, the Phoenix clip-on light, which the grapevine, the grapevine, is that what I want to hear? The underground word, put ear to the ground, says that those might not be around long term. Like they might be discontinuing that light. They're not sure yet, but I hope not. I love that light. Let's see here. Chicken of the Sea says, watching for about 20 minutes, then you got the ad. Well, that's a bummer. It spams me all the time, like, hey, do you want to turn on mid-roll ads? And I'm just like, no, I do not. I absolutely do not want to do that. No, not hot chocolate, just a little bit of chicken broth. It helps the vocal cords a little bit. Let's see. What are the ways to bring down TDS without an RODI? I don't know. You can remove minerals and things out with plants. I'm not sure if that will actually lower TDS. I've never tested that. In general, the longer you let plants scrub something out, TDS rises just from top-offs and things like that. But I'm convinced that TDS is the most useless metric that has ever been associated with aquariums. And that says something, because there's a lot of useless stuff like ORP and trying to think of other ones that I'm not a fan of measuring either. And the reason I say that is I don't know why everyone keeps trying to go out of their way to like, no, it is useful. And then I get into a nerd battle and be like, tell me how. And then they go on this like mental gymnastic thing to prove a point. And then I go, but it still doesn't help. And what I mean by that is what a TDS meter does is measures total dissolved solids. So anything that goes in the water, right? If you pee in your fish tank, that'll make it go up. If you put salt in your tank, that'll make it go up. If you put dechlorinate in your tank, that'll make it go up. If you put fertilizer in your tank, that'll make it go up. If you put food in your tank, that'll make it go up. If you let dust particles dissolve into the water, that'll make it go up. If your water source changes, that'll make it change. So basically, nearly everything affects it. And you can put a meter in and it goes, hey, you now have a number. And that number basically has no relevancy because you don't know, was that lotion from your arm yesterday, or was that fertilizer that you put in yesterday, or was it too much food, or was it new stuff coming in from your tap water, or was it? And so then you get people trying to go, oh, well, this fish only does well at, or specifically, it seems to be shrimp keepers, to breed this shrimp, you got to keep it at this TDS. But they're not specifying, is that much TDS with salt? Calcium? Coffee poured into the aquarium? What is it? They just go, no, it's this. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, though. That doesn't make any sense. It's more like saying, if you work 40 hours a week, you buy a home. And it's like, but there's so many factors to that, like saving money, how much do you make per hour, how much is the home? And you're like, nope, I was able to buy a house at 40 hours per week. Like, okay, but that's literally not a measurement that's useful to anybody in any way. And you need the extra data. And that's what TDS is. Like, that number means nothing without all the other data. And once you provide the data that quantifies what TDS is of that tank, you no longer need the TDS. If you go, oh, well, the TDS is calcium because I'm dosing the calcium, and I know that because I use a calcium test kit. Great. Then just tell people the calcium level they need to keep, not the TDS. Why did they invent it then? If we're being honest, I believe stuff gets invented all the time. But the reason it became popular, in my opinion, is because they were cheap to make, and then they include them in Brita water filters so that you could take your tap water, put it through the Brita water filter, then you could test the water after it went through the Brita water filter, and you're like, hey, it has less stuff. And we convinced ourselves from marketing that that is good. And in my opinion, that's not always good. I like the fact that I have some calcium and some things in my water for one, my plants and my body and my dogs and things like that. And in fact, if you get too pure of water, it's actually bad for you. If you drink distilled water, it starts breaking down your teeth and your bones, and your stomach can have problems with too much acidity and things like that. So I just because something exists doesn't mean it's good. I could invent things all day long. Doesn't mean it actually helps the hobby, right? Rainwater is genuinely soft, generally, unless it's picking up particles from the atmosphere, which it does if you test it. That's how you get acid rain and other things. And people that start collecting rainwater from their roof, they start testing it and they go, wow, it's got other stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's roof runoff. And things that collect on your roof are now, in your gutters are now mixing in with the water that you need to bring to your aquarium and they need to purify it. And in your mind, you're like, yeah, but rain's already pure. It's like, kind of. Just like tap water is already pure, like, kind of. So the good news is plants pretty much fix all of that. If you give it enough time, plants will strip everything out. Not everything. A lot of stuff out. Have I ever had baby fish die after eating baby brine shrimp? Not really. There's lots of reports from like Dean and other people where if they eat, the eggs, that they can get constipated. But I honestly haven't really run into that. I just had an argument about the uselessness of TDS today. I'm just convinced at the point where you can tell me what the TDS is made up of, whatever the sentences that justified what the TDS is was more important than the number. The number just doesn't help me. The corner case is if you had 10 tanks that were all taken care of the exact same way with the exact same maintenance and all of that, and you could document the TDS, you might be able to extrapolate some information. But at the time where you're documenting that, I'd rather just use a test strip. Here we go. The prodigal aquarist. TDS takes 2 seconds. If you know your usual TDS and it goes through the roof, you might then want to test GH and KH. If TDS is normal range, no need to run through the GH and KH tests. Yep. And in 1 minute with my test strips, I will have the answer. I will just skip the whole TDS thing. You also, how do you know your TDS meter has been calibrated? How do you know? There are uses for it. I will never jump on that train because there are just more, in my opinion, more better uses of other things. You could convince me maybe, that the older Fluval filters, I don't think they make anymore, that measured TDS in real time, if they built in Wi-Fi capability, and then would send you a notification on your phone, could be useful. And how could that be useful? Well, if your nephew dumps in hair gel, the water would start, the TDS would start detecting it and would send an alert, and then you could at least be like, hey, that's a way in which I could observe it. That being said, that's such a corner case, so I still would be like, yeah, I'm not sure I need that. So, but there are ways in which I could see potentially using TDS, and it starts with really knowing what your TDS is and what it's made up of. And the problem is it gets sold to people like, yeah, don't use test strips, use a TDS meter. Do this. Like, that literally tells you nothing. TDS meter measures conductivity, uses a conversion formula similar to give a readout to ppm, which is parts per million. And that formula is usually based on the conductivity and the molar mass of salt. It also is what, micromoles? Is it micromoles? What is the other conversion that the rest of the world uses? Instead of what we use, it's it's like that weird U symbol, I think. Yeah. I haven't done any water testing in my 20 years, 20 tanks over 5 years. I don't advocate for that either, by the way. I don't advocate for never testing. I don't advocate for over testing. Mostly it's read the directions when you think something might be going wrong. Start there. Microsiemens? Yeah, what did I say? I said micromoles because that's the alternate measurement for par. But micro Siemens, yeah, you're correct. My next purchase should be the OxyGuard CO2 meter. It's only about $3,000. I need to Google this because I am kind of a madman. If I could use that to prove that air stones are adding CO2 to an aquarium, worth it. All right. There's a time when enough memberships, if we, maybe we get to like 5,000 memberships or something, I'll start buying more $3,000 toys, because that's kind of what I try and do. Is I try to crowdsource the membership stuff into that greater good. Like, yes, you guys will be paying for it, but the whole world will know the results, hopefully. I like that it does not need regular maintenance. I hate when probes, you got to calibrate them every time and use them. It's a pain in the butt. By the way, I've been doing some 3D printing. So Lowell reached out on the forum and basically made it as easy as possible. And these parts, and I made some custom parts, but I'll talk about that in a second. But this is a modified version of what he is making. He actually made me a special version that was too big for my printer, because the printer's been sitting in the box for over 2 years, and I didn't have a big enough print space. And so I had to modify it, and when I did, I actually made this line, which doesn't look very cool. Normally, I wouldn't have a line, but I had to shorten it up, make it a little shorty. But my goal that I had been talking about is I wanted it super deep, so that I could have, a bigger fish in here, where the average one is maybe like this deep, about half as deep. And so I was able to make this box, print this box. I did not design the file. And then I was able to print this successfully, which is good. This is the intake. And then the slides. And I did make my own project, because my first step was in the foray into 3D printing. Can I print a file? Like, can I just make a thing? And that was kind of amazing and mind-blowing. Able to print things. Wow, that's crazy. Then my next challenge that I gave myself was, I need to design something, as in, this thing didn't exist until I invented it, or I made it. Didn't have a file. And I thought the first step for that would be to copy something. And so I copied, I don't have it, it's in my house, but I copied a intake strainer for like my 10 gallons. And the first attempt, I learned that, hey, you got to support different parts, so that didn't work out as well as I wanted. All this is documented on the forum, by the way. Then I flipped it and printed it a different way, so it had better support and included some supports. That one, I would say, is usable. Like, hey, I made a thing that I could use probably every day and it would work. And that was kind of the first steps. And now my next steps are, I've got ideas that I actually want to make and put them, maybe as prototypes, which if I were prototypes for a product I'm going to make, I have to buy some commercial licenses and stuff. So I'm still doing a lot of learning. How did I segue from CO2 meter to 3D printing? Well, let me tell you. One of my next things I want to work on is, I have other gadgets like a dissolved oxygen meter that has to get flow by the meter for it to read the oxygen content correctly. And so what I want to do is 3D print an apparatus that I can hang on a tank and have our power head sit in there and blow the water past the sensor over here. And so I might take that on as a project, which is going to be, I learn a lot, but it's maddening learning of like, oh, that's not doing what I needed to do. How do I Google and get the right answer? What do they call this thing? And by doing some of these projects, so that's going to lead to some of these cool videos that I'll be able to make, because I've had these sensors for a long time, and originally the goal was, Dean, can you make me one out of acrylic? And that's been over a year, and like the answer is, yes, he can, but he hasn't found the time. If I can 3D print one, I can start making that video, and same thing for some of these other meters and some of these things we want to do. I also can prototype products that I want to make. And so, yeah, it's been fun so far. What CAD software am I using? I've done a little bit of Googling and watching and stuff like that. So far, I'm choosing Onshape. Autodesk 360 is a contender. I played around a little bit with the Prusa slicer, but Onshape, I like the cloud aspect of it, because I can totally see myself like wanting to work on something when I'm in Kentucky or in the house or Maybe even while I'm in China, like, hey, let me model the file. And it's all cloud-based. And so I like that aspect of it, but in my opinion, the software is crazy expensive. And so I'm going to test some more software, see what I jive with, and then commit to something and actually start trying to make commercial product. But I've already seen a few custom prints that will be very useful in my own home aquarium that I'd have it going right now, but it makes a lot of sound, so. All right. Let's see. Let's get back to fish topics. I know we kind of veered off into the TDS rabbit hole there. Should I turn off my air stone when I'm running CO2? No. I like the extra circulation you get. I like to have it just going at a moderate clip, and I like to make sure my fish have maximum oxygen. I am a fish keeper first, a plant keeper second, and you can have both maximum CO2 and maximum oxygen in your aquarium at the same time. It's not a give and take scenario. So maybe if you have your air stone on, you have to go, oh, I was doing 1 bubble per second, now I do 1.1 bubbles per second. Pretty small price to pay to make sure you have plenty of oxygen. I can't seem to link my YouTube membership to the Aquarium Co-op website. You can message customer service. There's videos on how to do it. We have people from time to time have problems. As far as I know, it is fully working, because otherwise my email will be blowing up with, hey, this thing doesn't work, get it fixed, Corey, by a developer. So usually, maybe it's a cookie setting for you, maybe it's the device setting you're using, maybe it could actually be broken too, and we'd love to know that and get it fixed. So, but our people will work with you and get you synced up. Let's see here. Can all snails crawl out of your aquarium? Can they? I think physically they could. Do all of them want to? No, I think mostly mystery snails and nerites kind of want to, where like, I'm not sure, well, I'm sure I've seen it, but like ram's horn and Malaysian trumpet snails almost never do it. Like for the thousands I have, I might see one a year out of the tank. Customer service took care of them already. Your people did it. There we go. My people get you taken care of. They're an extension of what we can do. They help amplify my time. So I would love to answer everybody's questions one by one personally. I would never get anything done, so it works out best if I teach and help people in my company learn a thing, then they teach the next people, and we can amplify. So hey, now we're answering 10 questions every minute instead of 1 per minute, and that helps it scale. And so that helps us get us stuff shipped out super quick. It helps you get your questions answered super quick. In my opinion, we go out of our way. We answer questions 7 days a week. We try to always make sure we clear the deck every day before we call it a day. And in a perfect world, we basically never have where you have to wait more than 24 hours for an answer. Usually it's never more than like 12-ish, but sometimes super complex emails like, oh, I got to save this, and this is going to be like a 20-minute thing I got to write up. So that might not get answered till the end of the day, when we could answer like, oh, I can answer 20 other people's problems right now. Sometimes it also takes research to fix someone's problem as well. Where can I get blueberry snails? As someone said, Moonlight Aquatics has had some in stock. We've had some in stock at the store. We're currently out. And then also they are for sale at dansfish.com as well that I've seen. I'm sure there's other places as well, but those are the ones I happen to know off the top of my head for you. Do I use any cleanup crew at the plant tanks at the warehouse? Any Siamese alligators or loaches for pest control? We use a little bit of Siamese alligators, a little bit of flagfish, a little bit of bristlenose, and a little bit of nerite snails. Depends on the species of plant, and mostly that, and what we have kind of around. It was a little bit more diverse when we had the store, just like, oh, the store is 20 minutes away. Now anything we want to bring into that warehouse is kind of, we got to ship it in. And so snails are much easier to ship than fish, and we make maybe big purchases, once a year or something. Although that makes it sound like we're killing a bunch. We basically haven't purchased more since we set it up. So you will lose stuff every once in a while. If you got 100 autos and you're like, oh man, we're losing one a month. Like, what's going wrong? It's really hard to diagnose when there's over 100 tanks and knowing like at random one might drop. So it's kind of a like, what was it? A wild caught? Was that one too old? Did that one get caught in a thing? Was it fighting with another thing? Was it not getting food? Did it accidentally get squished by a tray? There's a million things that could happen, but honestly, not much does happen. So we just kind of react and kind of take stock and make moves. Sometimes it's like, oh, the system's running too clean. It's not enough algae. So we're feeding, and maybe it's like, oh, algae's back, but it doesn't want to eat that. That can happen. Let's see. You're a fish keeper when you find pest snails and duckweed in every corner of your house. You're not a fish keeper till it's in your washer and dryer, as my wife would attest to. Why are gold laser quarries on the higher end of cost? Is it fair for me to breed and sell to local fish store at a lower cost? Intent to lower the cost to customers and allow fish stores to carry them consistently. Yeah, I think it's fair. Usually what you find, and it's not always the case, but usually what you find is to scale something can be incredibly different than just breeding them. So maybe you're like, hey, I made 20 of these. And then, so let's say orange lasers or gold lasers we're talking about here. Let's say they're $25 at the fish store, and a store can sell 30 of these a month. If they're $5, I can sell 800 of them a month. But the problem is you can't breed 800. You can breed 80 a month. And so the trick is to find that balance normally between supply and demand and cost and making it worth your while. And that happens all the time where you'll get someone like, oh, I just breed them for fun, and that'll be going great for 2.5 months. And then the person that was doing it for fun no longer is finding it fun, so they don't breed them anymore. And then you got to bring them in from wholesale, and the price goes up 5x. And now your customers go, Corey, you are screwing us. And I go, no, I can't buy them for cheap anymore. And then maybe 6 months later, someone else breeds them and supplies them cheaper again. And then the person that bought them at the expense go, I knew you're screwing me, Corey. Like, nope, it just happened to be their new breeder was breeding them and they want to make it low. And so that's what makes it hard when you've got, a little bit of supply going. You really got to, are you going to do this long term? We can change the price on these. And I love to offer things at a cheaper price. But it needs to remain consistent. And that's part of the problem is the supply. And so I do this all the time. I'll spend stupid money on live bears. I will breed them, and then I know about how many I can breed and how much I can supply. And then we sell them for $20 to $30 a pair. And we're almost always sold out, but knowing that I will make more, that allows us to kind of keep trickling them back into the store. And then other people pick them up and they start breeding them and the price stays lower because I know that I'm not going to go, ooh, well, next week I'm going to jack the price up. And so if too many people start saying like Liviana guppies, let's say you're selling at $50 a pair, like every time I bring a new set into the store and more people get them and they're at 20 or $30, the more you're going to look like you're out of control. And so I can help kind of set the price at some things. And I go out of my way I'm basically trying to recoup my money so I can buy the next crazy purchase and then share the fish with everybody else. Because in a perfect world, I wish we didn't have to spend money on anything. And it was just like you woke up and you did what you wanted to do and you played with the fish you wanted to play and you went and did something that was meaningful to you in life. And then one day you die. But instead, we've created a system where we trade widgets, whether it's money or work or whatever, for other things. And so I try to play in that realm. And that's what Aquarium Co-op does. So let's see here. You ever had issues with autosynchronous dying when you first get them? Yep, there's a whole video on that. If you find the video about that I did on autosynchronous where I show them kind of coming from the wild, the conditions they're in, I lay it all out why new autosynchronous are highly likely to be underfed and malnourished, and the best things you can do to give them success that we do in the store and at home. So watch that video because it's going to be like a whole 15-minute spiel, and it really needs the video and the images and stuff to go along with it to go, oh, I understand. I see what you're saying versus, yeah. So watch that video. I could probably find it pretty quick. Autosynchronous aquarium coop. Let's see if I can find it for you real quick. There we go. It's called An Honest Conversation about Autosynchronous fish, and I will put it into the chat for everybody if they want to follow up with that later and watch that video. There we go, right there. There it is. Will Easy Fry be discontinued now that the Magic Nanos come to market? No, not currently. It could in the future. Any product has the ability to go out of print if no one's buying it, if there's a dramatic shift in cost or anything like that. But currently, no. I think I have $10,000 or $20,000 worth of Easy Fry food sitting at the warehouse. So we have no plans on not selling it. And for the most part, we don't try to discontinue stuff because it's not even just all the customers, it's all the stores. It's a big ordeal when something goes away, which for a while I know there was like, oh man, in the last year there's been like 4 or 5 products. Like, yeah, not really by our choice. We usually are trying to add to it and then keep supporting them forever. So, yeah. If all of a sudden it's like, oh, we sell 1,000 Magic Nanos for every one fry food and stores are dropping it, it's like, yeah, we'll just drop it long term. Yeah. There will be some changes and stuff, though, to it. What I mean by that is, like, packaging. We're trying to make it so we don't have to make it in-house anymore. It's a real pain in the butt to make it in-house because we're set up to ship things. We're not so much set up to manufacture things in our warehouse. While it's doable and we own the expensive machine and you know, but there's parts that break and you need like any factory, you need like a maintenance person to be like, hey, maintenance the machines. And if we don't stay up on it, then a part breaks, then we got to order a part and the production's delayed and like, it's a pain. Where if you had a factory that all they're doing is processing food, yep, every week they're maintaining the machine, they don't have the part break, they don't have they store extra parts. And yeah, so our goal is to get it to be processed for us. It makes it easier. My office is considering purchasing an aquarium. Any advice to further convince them it's a good idea? I pretty much only have advice that'll work against them. Like, it usually changes your insurance rate at an office, and there's all those kind of things that go with it. But the way to sell it would be if you have a lobby or something like that. It's good for the public as long as you have someone professionally taking care of it. It always looks good. It can be good to de-stress and decompress employees that maybe are having a hard day, or maybe they had a performance review, didn't go so well. They can hang out by the aquarium. There are perks to it, but the reality is it's quite a cost for a business to have an aquarium done correctly, where usually someone's maintaining it and you've properly disclosed it to your insurance and the property owners and things like that. So by all means, though, aquariums are awesome. Don't be the one that volunteers to take care of it. You'll end up hating it. Instead, just try to get someone to keep one for you and enjoy it, because you'll have something to look at lunch and during special projects and things like that. So, yeah. After a season of summer tubbing, I have what I think are detritus leeches. Should I try and get rid of them or welcome the biodiversity? I don't know. I guess first I want to know, like, are they actually hurting anything? If so, get rid of them. If no, maybe I find something that eats them long term. I haven't really run into leeches. I've run into like bloodworms and other stuff in there, which I think is good biodiversity. But when in doubt, I typically go, let's see if this is a problem before I make it a problem. A lot of the hobby, I think we jump to, this thing's new, it must be a problem. Where in nature, I kind of go, let's see if it becomes a problem. You might be a fish that eats it, might get too hot or too cold, like it might die off on you. You don't know yet. But I love to observe whether it's a bug or, oh, there's a newt in my pond. Anything new, I'm going, I wonder what that'll do. Maybe this, maybe that. We'll have to see. I love the ecosystem and seeing how it changes. And yes, the byproduct is keeping fish, and I love that. But I also love to be like, ooh, tadpoles are in there eating my fish. Dang it. But I'm raising tadpoles. Isn't that fun and neat and new? Yes, it is. I picked up some Nezzy swordtails and Zanataka Eisenai at my club's big auction last month, and I already have some fry. Well, good. I just separated out a few Nezzy swordtail fry into my breeder system to raise up a little bit. I love that fish. When they get big, they are nice. Does anyone know how many pea puffers can be kept in a densely 29-gallon tank? Densely planted, by the way. I forgot that word. I've been trying to find results online, but I haven't gotten a concrete answer. My typical spiel is 1 pea puffer per 3 gallons of water with the appropriate male and female ratio. And then I follow up with, I could keep 100. That doesn't mean it's right, or you can. But maybe you start with a group of 10. Maybe you end up with 3 males, 7 females. That should be pretty laid back. And you feed them appropriately, probably be fine. And then I would follow up with, how many do you need? And what I mean by that is replace pea puffers with dogs. 1 dog, amazing. 2 dogs, pretty darn amazing. 3 dogs, I'm not sure is much better than 2. 4 dogs, 5 dogs, 6 dogs, 7 dogs, right? So at a certain point, maybe 3 pea puffers, and you're like, wow, they're always doing something quirky. Those are fascinating. But do you need 10 or 20? Think of it like movies. If you had the top 50 movies you like to watch always available to you, do you need the top 50,000 videos? Probably not. You don't have enough time to even watch the top 50 all the time. So that's what I would say is, instead of going, how many could I possibly keep? Change the question is, how many would I need to enjoy them? And for a lot of people, that could just be 1. I just need 1 pea puffer. And then like a better question, I'd be like, what else could I put with these pea puffers? I'd much rather enjoy one of these, one of those, one of that. Yeah. So think of it like maybe like a gift card. You can have $10,000 in gift cards. Do you want $10,000 all to 1 restaurant? Or would you rather have $10,000 in gift cards split up between 15 restaurants? I personally would love 15 different restaurants instead of just 1. So think of you've got a limit, which is that 30 gallons basically. What can I put in there? I'm not sure I'd go with all 1 species. Hey, Corey, I'm from Australia. Michael Caine. Isn't that the actor? Anyway, I've got a large goldfish, 6 years old, that has what looks like to be warts. All the others are fine. Any ideas what's going on and best way to start treating? Describing them by looking like warts, I lean towards, maybe you've got some like some tumors or something going on. For me, usually it comes from stress, and I would try things like freshening up the water by some water changes, looking at water temperature, making sure my food was fresh. You could try putting it in a different aquarium and seeing like, oh, maybe it's a female that's being harassed by males all day long and it's stressed out from that. But I find what fixes it typically, reducing the stress load is what allows those tumors to heal if they're going to heal. That being said, you could have something completely different, and your description just made me think of the tumors. You could hop on the forum or Facebook group or somewhere, get pictures of it, and we can start trying to identify and maybe change the recommendation. But in general, it's pretty much never a bad idea. Reducing stress on the fish only makes them better. So you can't really go wrong with that. What happened to my business talks? I enjoyed your perspectives. Time. I basically don't have time, and they pretty much only got me in trouble. And yeah, basically that. Plus, people basically never listened. And what I mean by that is the people that really wanted the advice, like, oh, I'm going to work on my business, then they would like not do it and just keep calling me an idiot. And like, all right, I don't know. So it's not very fun when you're like, I'm doing it, people are listening, but they don't heed the advice. And then they just get angry when their advice they don't listen to didn't work. And yeah, so I just kind of stopped going, I'm just going to focus on what I do. And mostly the live streams are anything I want. That's if I want to talk about business all day, I'll talk about business all day. There was a guy on the forum. He said, hey, I didn't like it when you called the shopping network on a live stream a few weeks ago because I was talking about products. I get it. But the live stream is basically, if you want to interact with Corey, and if you were my friend and you came over today and I wasn't live streaming and you said, what's up, Corey? I'd be like, work's been crazy. We've been launching the Magic Nano. I've got a new product launching. I got a film. I got this going on. Like, oh, this and this. I would be telling my friend the same thing, right? So I basically treat the live streams as that. It's almost like you guys go, hey, what's going on? Here's what's going on in my life. We're catching up as friends. And if that means I'm launching products at work, I'm going to talk about that. If you've got a crazy thing going on at work, it's on your mind. If you're not thinking about that and you're thinking about, hey, my kid's graduating from from college or middle school or whatever that's on your mind. You're going to talk about it. And so that's the way I treat these live streams. You might go, hey, I came over, let's catch up for a couple hours. We talk about how work's going. We talk about our aquariums. We talk about food. We talk about whatever. And that's how the live streams go for me. And that's enjoyable. People will say, well, it's much better when you give a presentation. You're right. It totally is. Except I'm not signing up for that every Sunday for the rest of my life of like, did you get your presentation ready? Like, that's work. That's not hangout time. And so the way I would explain that is, it's one thing to go hang out with your friend and be like, hey, you want to watch the game on Saturday or Sunday or whatever, or, something that's like, if you show up and we'll hang out, we can do that. It's a different thing when like, hey, you want to host a party for all your friends every weekend? That would wear you down. You'd be like, well, I got to plan the menu, and this person's got a scheduling conflict. Can we start an hour later? And can we wrap it up by this time? And can we do that? That is an entirely different thing that you might do once every 3 months versus, yeah, if you want to come out and hang out, we're already making some food. We're going to watch the game. We're going to do whatever we're going to do. That is what the live stream is. We're going to hang out. You want to hang out? I am here. You want to do something much more planned? That's on you. Let's see. Boy, howdy, am I glad, by the way, I didn't do an event with my friends for the Tyson fight. What a epic letdown. The dual air pump is louder than 2 of the single air pumps. Yes. Very slightly so. You can see it in a video. It's less than, I think, it's like 1/3 of a dB louder, technically. Still not very loud, though. But yes, that is a true statement. It's using more power. So some of the basic things in life, use more energy, get more result, whether it's more air, more money, more sound. You apply more power or more of something, you usually get more of something. It's very rare that you can apply more of something and get less of something in power products like that. So, but it is only slight, so I will say that. The fight was a total scam. I don't think that. I think if you paid to be there and you were in person, bummer. Some of the pre-fights were a lot better. But in terms of me already having Netflix and whether they put that fight on or not, I don't feel scammed because I didn't invest anything into it. I didn't go, oh, I'm going to sign up for this. Ooh, I was going to cancel, but now I'm not. Instead, we had it on in the background, kind of go, oof, rough, okay. And I was just working the whole time is what I did. I'm just glad I didn't put a whole event on, like, hey, come on over, Bob, and Chelsea and Candy and other people are going to watch the fight and I hype train this thing and I bought pizza and then we're just all sitting there going, oh. So I'm just glad I didn't do that. So. Can Easy Tabs by the Co-op and the Co-op's Easy Green help me? I have sand substrate and my plants are dying back. I did order some about an hour ago. Potentially, yes. The reason I say that is you might have the world's best fertilizer already. And if you've got the world's best fertilizer and you're swapping to ours, it might not help you because you might be doing something wrong. In general, though, we find that, yes, it should help. Reach out on the forum and customer service. And if we see pictures of your tank, what kind of light are you using? Is it on a timer? What's your water parameters? What is your dosing schedule? And what are the problems you're having? Usually we can get you to keeping a nice, healthy aquarium with your plants thriving. That kind of comes with the territory when you're buying the Easy line of products. There's a lot of people using it, which is helpful because if you hang out on our forum or our Facebook group or whatever, everybody can basically go, hey, here's what I do. Hey, that'll work like this. Hey, I found when I did this, that'll happen. Where there's not really that experience as much with, like CChem and other products because they don't have their own forums and their own place to really discuss what's going on there. You got to find the other planted tank forums, and that's helpful too. But we have a concentration of people using our products, and so it makes it a little bit easier to go, hey, how do I use this specific thing because you're hanging out where that specific thing is sold. So yeah, should work. If I were to start from scratch and had nothing but time and money, I'm reading that wrong. There needs to be like a comma. Had nothing but time, comma, and money was limited. How would you start up? I got 2 spare rooms. What fish would you do to breed and start privately selling? So I would probably buy 10-gallon tanks. I'd do everything I could to get them on mega sale. And what does that mean, Corey? And you have to watch a lot of my videos to really extrapolate this knowledge quickly, or not quickly, but in depth. I'll do it quickly. I would buy like Petco gift cards at a discount on eBay or something like that, and I would buy that with a credit card, so I save a percentage. Then I would go and I would buy them on the 50% off sale, and I would pay with the gift card, and I would make sure I'm getting my PAL point rewards. So every $100 you spend, you get $5 in a gift card, or not a gift card, but as a credit. And then I would make sure I use my credit card to pay any differences there. And that's how I started my store, basically, it's half off, but I also saved 20% when I bought a gift card. And when I spent $100, it's $5. So that's another 5% off. So I'm getting basically 60% off, 65% off when you do that kind of math. And I would just do 10-gallon tanks, and I would use whatever the cheapest lighting was from Home Depot, probably like a shop light or something like, ooh, look, I got this thing, it's $18, that'll work. And I put a timer on it, and I get some sponge filters because they're cheap. Any of this stuff you can find used and cheap or free, I would do that. When it comes to fish, I would start with live bears because they are easy to breed, and I would also get shrimp, and I would work on that. I would get plant scraps or buy some plants, and I would basically let that marinate for like 3 months because you got time. And hey, now I've made some stuff. Now start trying to trade and sell that stuff, whether it's privately or to a store, and get better quality fish to breed, get better quality plants, get more tanks. And I believe the best way for most people is start with a budget of like $500. And that you're gonna go, I don't have $500. Like that'd be the limit. Like don't spend more than $500 for sure. You can spend less. You can be thriftier. You can do all that. And everything above that $500, you had to breed and sell and get your way there. And once you do that, then it starts paying for itself. And by giving yourself that limitation, it makes sure that you will always be kind of profitable. Where if you spend $10,000 and set up the best fish room ever and never breed a whole thing, you're losing a lot of money. So most times when it comes to nature, more money spent does not get better nature. More time spent gets better nature. And so whether it's a garden, your lawn, your whatever animals, more time spent is better than more money spent. And so by giving yourself the self-limiting factor of I can't spend a lot of money, which means the only way for success is spending a lot of time. And when you give yourself that limitation, you're much more likely to hit success with lots of time instead of lots of money. So don't forget to order online with local pickup and get another 20% off over $80. I've never been able to order tanks online. I've tried several times. They, at least locally to me, they won't let me do a local pickup on tanks. They say that's not available for online sale. So otherwise, I would do that. Instead, I end up paying full price from a wholesaler just to save time. Would we ever ship to Canada? Unlikely. You can buy from April's Aquariums. Importing and exporting is just a bummer. Customs, it's all tons of paperwork, tons of expense, tons and tons and tons. And so purchasing through one of our retail partners works out better because they can do it in lump sum. I got to fill out the paperwork every time we sell an Easy Green. If we sell a pallet of Easy Green, it's the literal same piece of paperwork we fill out. So we may as well sell a pallet instead of one, and that's what we prefer to do. 642 people in the chat here so far today. You got to tell your friends. Tell your friends. Time is the greatest commodity. That is 100% true. No matter how much money anyone has, everybody still has the same 24 hours. You can make of that what you will. You can obviously use money to amplify your time, but when it comes to like learning a skill, you can, if we both sit in a room, we need to spend our time on it. Now, if you have a ton of money, you could buy the world's best person at that skill that's the best teacher, and you could probably save a little bit of time. But honestly, most things, you don't save that much time. You just got to put in the time. And so that's that 10,000 hours to master something. When someone wants to start a store, I tell them, go run a store. And they go, yeah, but that sounds like work. I want to do this thing and just do what I want to do over here. And I go, great, that's going to fail for you. Good luck. Oof, Canada. Canada posts on strike. No shipping. Ooh, didn't know that. The like to watch count is way out of whack. Yes, if you want to help, you can always help by hitting the thumbs up. What the thumbs up honestly does, if we get enough of them, it will notify more people. Basically, you guys have the control of all the videos and live streams. And what I mean by that is, if you guys are chatting in the chat, you're hitting the like button, you're doing the shares, those things are the points that we can earn. I could put on the best show ever, and this happens all the time. That's why you have creators that are amazing, but they have small followers, because they're not getting enough likes, shares, and that kind of stuff, and engagement. So no matter how good or bad I am, if you guys are liking and sharing and inviting your friends and leaving comments and watching it after the fact, those are all the points that we can accumulate when we do a show. And the more points we accumulate, it ranks us on the system. And so if we are doing really good, then more people will watch it. And that's where you usually see over time our view count gets higher the longer the stream goes. And it does that because it's gotten more signals. And so in a perfect world, I should be live streaming for 8, 10, 12, 15 hours, because then we'd get huge user counts. But then I'd never get anything done. And so basically, anyone that you want to see have success in a social media platform, it's literally like voting, except your vote actually counts. And what you won't realize is, even though there's 100,000 views, you might go, oh, look, but there was only this many likes, and there was only this many comments. So we have videos that get 100,000 views, but only 200 comments, and only 2,000 likes. And so your participation in that system is disproportionately weighted and does really well. And so if you go, oh, I hate Corey and I want to see someone else rise to the top, go engage in all their content, and they will slowly start doing that if a bunch of people start doing it. Not a bunch, but like enough. And same thing here. If you guys want more of this, like, the best way is, it's called voting with your wallet, right? Except you're voting with your attention. If you're paying attention, you're watching what we do, and you like it, and you vote, and you do these things, we will make more of it, because our analytics will show that. YouTube will show that to us, and all of this, and it will just make more. And that's the way you can honestly drive what we do. If no one ever watches the live stream, we make more videos. If no one's watching anything we do, great. I will live on a forum. I will always be in aquariums. It's just where you'll see me will change based on where people are showing up. Doesn't do me any good to show up in the middle of nowhere and talk to nobody, so I may as well show up where people want me to be. Rob Douglas with 5 gifted memberships. Thank you very much. You've been a member for 6 months yourself. I appreciate that. And then we also got another 5 memberships from Alexander Koch. Is that right from last time? It was like Coke instead of Koch. Coke. With 5 more memberships. So 10 more people joining it. Make sure you watch. I didn't even go into that spiel. I should have. Yesterday's talk was the worst title and thumbnail for a talk that could have been dreamed up, in my opinion, and was one of the best talks I've seen in my 20 years. Chuck Rambo delivered, in my opinion, a very, very entertaining, fascinating, educational talk about the history of aquariums. You got to see amazing pictures of tanks in the 1800s, all the way up to new stuff. I learned so much about crazy stuff on putting light bulbs underwater to heat aquariums, and all these things that I've seen and didn't really know the context, and where in the timeline did that live, and why things became popular and died off, and all of that. And I really want everybody to see that talk, because even my wife was like, oh, this is interesting. So even the people that aren't necessarily really into aquariums are like, well, that's fast. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I like that. And so if you get a chance, watch that talk, especially if you just got that new membership, or if you buy it, that's the first one you got to watch. It was really, really enjoyable. I watched it on the big screen as I was playing on the forum and talking to people, and very, very enjoyable. Everybody, I think, can digest that one and go, that was amazing. That was good. Where some of the other ones, like Breed and Corridors, are doing a certain thing. That one you got to be into. This one, though, your whole house could be like, oh, well, that's super interesting. Oh, wow. Because it was just a very well done thing. So the title, though, of like the history of aquariums with African cichlids, there's almost no African cichlids in the thing. He himself, Chuck Rambo, is very much into cichlids and stuff like that, but I think it downplays his talk but maybe also the history of aquariums doesn't sound that sexy either, so maybe that's an attempt to spice it up. But boy howdy, take my personal testimony of watching it, that is the thing to watch. It was awesome, and I loved every minute of it. I was glued to the TV, and highly recommend you guys watch it. And yeah, and if you get a chance to see that talk in person, I would show up as well, because he probably has samples to show you in person, which was cool. $20 super chat from Kerr Gunner. My runt, what is this? My runt Neochala? What is a Neochala? Neochala fish? Let me see. Okay, Neochala. I can't even say this. Daddy Borgii? It's a midwater schooling fish. All right, well, let me keep reading. Maybe I will. Has 4x in a year now. Started sinking when I remove and add to salted aquarium. He improves in a week and then is fine for 1 to 6 months. His body shape is good. The rest of the group is fine. The temperature is 74. The pH is 8. So it sounds like you're having to baby him with some salt. Something's kind of going wrong. He's the runt. In these situations with other fish, not specifically this fish, what I find is if they get isolated or you change something about the tank, sometimes they get better food and the pecking order changes. They basically relax and feed up. And then you go back to the normal way of keeping the tank. And after over 6 months, they slowly decline and they need like the pick-me-up. And so I'd be trying isolating them for a while. I would try making some bigger changes in the tank that are more sustainable. And for whatever reason, the salt is probably treating the subtle bacterial or fungal infection that's plaguing its immune system. And I would be going, well, how can I treat this almost prophylactically and go, well, if I get them better food, de-stress them a bit, likely this won't be such a yo-yo scenario as opposed to improving overall and just keep it above the bar. If the bar is here and you're like, yeah, I put salt in, he goes above the bar, and then he's good, it takes 6 months, he's below the bar again, I put salt in, he goes above the bar. Look at minerals, look at other things, and it could just be that being these the runt, maybe he's slow to the food, maybe he's got, maybe his, one of his organs doesn't work quite as well, and those extra minerals help him in some way. But I would look at it from that aspect of like, okay, what are the different long-term changes I could make? Because salt's not really a long-term thing you're probably wanting to do. That's why you stop doing it. And so look at, a lot of times, like with mollies, for instance, they do really well with salt, but it's not so much the salt they want as the minerals they want. You provide a lot of minerals, they also do really well, and that you can do long-term. So I would work on changing some of the long-term things and see if you can't get a nice happy medium for everybody long-term. Let's see here. How's the store expansion going? Maybe grease the wheels at the permit office and offer to set up a nice tank. Yeah, that one has been a roller coaster the past few weeks. So where'd we leave off? We left off with needing fire alarm people to even show up. We finally got them to show up. And then they said, oh, well, it looks here that there's been no permits and your system is not compliant at all for the whole building, and this is going to be rough. And we go, oh, no. And then they talk to the fire marshal, and the fire marshal is like, yeah, let me see if I can find a permit. I can't find a permit. Maybe what we'll do is we'll grant you a 1-year thing so that as long as it's fixed within 1 year, you can still open. And then like 5 or 6 days go by and we follow up more and we're like, so can we start doing things? And they go, we found the original permit. And so you're going to have to upgrade your system before you can open and have the people that will do the work give me a call and we'll figure something out. And that was like Thursday or Friday or something. And so here we are sitting going, let's get it going. Come on, let's go. And we're just sitting in this limbo mode of like, we can't even get to the point of like, what is the work that needs to be done? I'm ready to sign the check. Like, do the work. Yes. The answer is yes. Keep going. Yes, 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 yes. It's always been yes. Should we do it? Yes. Do the thing. Yep. Yep. Do the thing. Yes. More. Yes. Faster. Yes. And it's basically been 3 years of that. Of like, yes, the answer is yes. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Do it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. Do it. Mm-hmm. And here we are. We have been on the edge of our seats. Literally, I'm going and teaching the employees how to unpack a import order. We were gearing up fish in the expansion because when I ordered them last Sunday, we probably could have opened it this week. But then 2 days later comes and it's like, oh, just kidding, haha. Actually, no, you can't. Oh, okay, cool. So that's literally where we are. Of like every day the status changes of like, could be tomorrow, just kidding. Gonna be a little bit. Oh, just kidding about that. Could be tomorrow. Like, and so we've been trying, and I had a whole meeting about this. I'm like, what I really need to have happen is we need to be able to somehow get a more concrete timeline because there's people with like vacations coming up, and we need to gear up the fish with or the store with fish. We need to do all these things, and I want to be able to say like, hey, our grand opening is December 15th, January 12th, never tomorrow. Like I want to go, here it is, guys. We're gonna do a soft opening, but here's the event, and we'll have people come in, and we're gonna do a thing. As of right now, it's just like, I couldn't tell you whether it's tomorrow or next year. I honestly couldn't tell you, and that's crazy frustrating from a store owner standpoint. The employees want to see it. The customers want to see it. We want to see it. We are so ready to close that chapter and open up like the new chapter and move on from that and just make it better. Because some of it is like, we just need to see the flow of how are people enjoying the new big display tank, and is there a bottleneck over here, and all of this. And we are ready, but just can't open the door yet. That's where we're at. It's like, oh, it's a bummer. Because there's things like we have some other contractor work. We want to, the next phase is actually to update the store we have right now of like, hey, let's put the new flooring in. Hey, let's swap out some of the older tanks. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. Let's put in the whole new wood and rock stations and stuff we've been planning for years. And the contractor's like, cool, when's that? And it's like, well, we can't do that until the other side's open. We want to get it done in like 2 days. What 2 days? Like, well, we don't want to close the store down, so ideally we want to close down the store we're in right now, but be fully open on the other side and kind of do a quick switcheroo, and then, hey, we're fully open again, and get all of that done before the grand opening. But you can't plan on anything when it's like each week is like, it's changing. Good to go, not good to go. Good to go, not to go. Yeah. So, and lots of meetings, and it just chews up all my time too. Of like, what's the latest? Okay, I better start working on that. And then like, just kidding, not doing that. Like, just wasting my time. Like I was planning to do this and this and this. Like, okay, backing off again. Just let me. So you just get depressed, and you're like, just let me know when I can do my part, I guess. Like, because these are in business. I love the parts where it's like, hey, it's waiting on Corey to do an action. I hate when it's like, nope, we have someone else has to do a thing before we can do anything. So we sit here just going, I'll work on something else, I guess. Ugh. Seems incredibly crazy the amount of regulations and red tape for small business to open. Yeah, it honestly is. It is crazy. And, not everything's crazy. There's definitely standards that keep people safe. But there's also like, I will never be okay with, and this is the best example I can give that I think this is the bureaucracy that is unfair. We have the same fire alarm system in the break room, my store, and the 2 store expansion units. Because we are doing a change of occupancy on the store expansion, meaning before it wasn't zoned for retail, it was zoned for office space, right? Because we're changing the way that space is used, we have to update the fire systems. Now, you're going, but Corey, shouldn't you have to update the fire system in your current store too? Oh, yes, if we change the way we use the building, we would be forced to. But because it was retail, before we made it retail, it's grandfathered in. So, in my opinion, it's not really about safety. It's about, like, shouldn't we make this whole building compliant if we're going to do this instead of just one thing? And the answer, I think, it should be like, yes. Or some kind of, I don't want to call it a discount, or some kind of bonus, like, hey, we will reward you in this way if you go above and beyond and expand your system to your previous store and your break room. Like, that makes sense. It also is better for like efficiency. If I'm having a company come do this, it will be less money to install it in 4 units instead of 2 units, and then 3 years from now, 1 unit, and then 5 years from then, another unit. But that's, so on one hand, it's like, oh, we do it for safety. Oh, no, but that one over there and your neighbor over there, because they haven't changed anything, we don't require them to be safe. And it's like, Okay. Okay. Let's keep doing that. Yeah. Yeah, some cities just be like that. Exactly. It is what it is. The new fire marshal, which we've always been in compliance with everybody because that's what we do. We're not here to fight. We're just here to sell fish and play with fish. But the new fire marshal, they like it when all units that are of the same business have the same address. So, for instance, our business address is 9661 Furdale Avenue, and our break room might be like 9663, and our expansion space might be 9665 and 9667. Well, we had to tear down all of those and just put one vinyl decal in the bottom right of the window that says 9661. And the theory being you could get confused if you were to call the police or the fire department and saying, hey, Aquarium Co-op's on fire, come help. And you go, well, what's your address? 9661 Furdale Avenue. And then they get there and they'd be like, I wonder which one of these is on fire. It's all a big fish store, but the door does say 9663 and I see the fire, but he did say 9661 and that would be this one. Even though they're all connected, you could walk between them. And so it's stuff like that, like, yes, we will do it. I guess that's the tallest nail we have to hammer down here. Like, I got it. That's fine. Meanwhile, not a single other of the 40 tenants have had to do this. Only us. So it's like, okay. All right, we will do it. Which, by the way, the whole fire thing is like every wall is concrete in the place. Literally every wall is concrete. And then if like my aquarium stand was to catch on fire, the aquariums would fall and put out the fire because even the ceiling's concrete. Everything's concrete. And we filled it up with water. Like, we are our own fire suppression system, which is kind of comical. And I realize the laws aren't for us. It is purely so that, like, let's say we move out tomorrow. It's like the next person that comes behind you, we want the safety system for them too. Like, I realize. And there's still corner cases where, like, it could catch on fire in this way and the water wouldn't put it out. I realize this. But just the fact that even all of our spaces aren't treated the same, it makes no rhyme or reason, and that's what holds me up. Is like, and to be fair, I don't want them to do it either, because they're like, well, now it's going to cost you. Like, if we had to put the HVAC system, like, we had to spend $25,000 in every unit. You're like, oh, it's $100,000 instead of $25,000. Like, thank you, right? But at the same time, we are the only unit out of the 40 units that has an HVAC system. Maybe it's not that important. If 39 other units have been operating for that many years and they don't have to have it, but we have to have it, maybe it's not as important as we think. The good news is, like, one of the main people does shop with us, and they're a fan of Aquarium Co-op, and that's great. It's just the laws, and that's the thing is, like, it's not. There's no one person going, oh, I don't like them. They're gonna do this. Literally, it's just a law. Like, they're cool, and they're just like, you just got to do what the law says. Like, I don't make up the law. It's the law. To get the check mark, you got to do the law. And I go, I know. We'll do it. We will do it. We'll do it. So, yeah. There was a local fish store near me that burned down. Tank water didn't extinguish the fire. Yeah, but they probably weren't all concrete. It's literally concrete floor, concrete walls, concrete ceiling. Everything's concrete. And I realize that there can still be fires. But there's a big difference between, like, the store I ran where everything was wood, and it's like the guy set it up almost like make fires, daisy chaining, power strips, and letting water fall out of it, lots of stuff. I realize and we literally do have a fire system in. It's just expanding it, and there's even they say, and you know what? For good measure, we might need to put extra strobes in the bathrooms. So it's one of those, like, why not? Let's go for the extra. Let's do it all. Yes. Audible alarms. Let's get flashing strobes. Let's just spend all of the money and see how long we can make this process take. Like, yes. Did they have a 1,500-gallon aquarium? Yeah. Let's see here. By the way, it's the other other stores in the thing have burned down. Like the convenience store burned down. There's a salon that's burned itself like 5 times. But meanwhile, they don't have to upgrade their system, by the way, because they're not changing use. That's the part that kills me. So the place that keeps burning down, they don't have to do it, but I got to do it. I get it. Yeah, okay, makes a lot of sense. Infinite money hack. That's right. You just keep asking for more things. They got to build them. Yeah. Let's see here. I've been a member for about 2 years and I have 8 tanks going now, and I learned a lot watching. Well, thanks, Retha Diller. Is that Retha? I don't know if I'm saying that right. I've never had to say that name before. Happy Sunday, Fish Fam from Rusty Johnson, 24. Just install a fire department while you're at it? Hey, don't give them any ideas. Don't give them any ideas. Was the salon the one that you flooded? No, actually, the spots that I flooded, I now rent both of them. One was, at the time, tattoo shop, and the other one was a flower party planner. So now they're both Aquarium Co-op. In fact, the next unit over is also Aquarium Co-op now too. Yeah, but literally, this is one of those things like when we took the spaces over, if you turn the lights on, they were burning and smoking. So we fixed everything. We had to fix everything. GFIs everywhere. We fixed so much stuff. And it's literally, I can be like, I can show you how this building's going to burn down in any of my neighboring tenants. But yes, we will be 100% compliant and safe. There is no doubt about that. Because I value the safety of my employees and my own business. I don't want it to burn down. It's we go out of our way. Yeah. In fact, we got yelled at because we had too many fire extinguishers. It literally was you gotta hide those fire extinguishers, or you gotta mount them with a sign. I'm like, okay, you're literally telling me put more fire extinguishers away. All right, we will do that. Because we have the ones in the place they have to be. How many square footage of fire extinguishers with the proper signage? But having an extra one, maybe back by the quarantine, you can't have an extra one unless it has signage. And I'm like, but we have the one that we have to have. So you're saying one is compliant, 3 of them with only one having a sign, we're breaking the law. So you're telling me it is better to not have more fire extinguishers. So we'll get some signs, we'll put them up, just because I would like to have more fire extinguishers. But it's that stuff that drives me nuts. I'm like, yep, Yeah, no such thing as too many fire extinguishers. And it wasn't like they were expired. We get them serviced. No. Not the proper height and not the proper signage was the culprit there. So, yeah. So that just lines you up for hide the fire extinguishers when the fire marshal comes around. We need, yeah. I would understand if they were expired and they didn't work, because that you're setting yourself up for failure. Hey, I went to go use the fire extinguisher and it didn't work. I understand that. I also see the logic, by the way, of you had 3 fire extinguishers, you didn't have signage. When a fire happened, someone went and tried to find the one they saw sitting there before, but it was no longer there. I realize that too. And so that's how I understand, okay, I get it. And we will put up, I want extra fire extinguishers, we'll put up signage, it's fine. Yeah. It doesn't, don't even get me started, the rants are never ending. The ADA accessible bathroom, they forced us to do it in the bathroom. That's not the best bathroom to do this in. They're no, you have to. It's 2 inches bigger, right? We kind of went over this a few live streams ago. Well, now when they saw it in person, they're like, but how is someone who's blind going to be able to find it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I see buffering over on this side, so hopefully my stream's not crashing. Maybe my internet went out. But anyway, they're like, yeah, you're going to need to put up extra signs. I want one at the bathroom, one on this wall, one on this wall, and then one here. So if you were blind and you had to find this bathroom, you got to be able to find your way through 4 signs to get there. Meanwhile, 2 of the signs are within 5 feet of the bathroom I had proposed. Of this one is way easier to get to for everybody. So they literally have to, no, not that bathroom. No. You got to keep going over here. This bathroom's 2 inches bigger. So, Real big bummer on that kind of stuff. And it's just regulations, and nobody wants to sign off on something that's not to a regulation. And the law states you got to go with the biggest bathroom, even though it's worse. It is 2 inches physically bigger. So, not that you'll be able to find it, but if you get there, it's 2 inches bigger. Do I rent or own these buildings? I only rent. Thank goodness. If I own them, that'd be even worse. Yeah. Because and this same reason why I won't be a landlord. Because when I'm a landlord, I would be like, oh, we need to update the fire system, and I'd spend the $100,000, whatever money it would cost. Be like, all of these, let's upgrade them. I don't have the backbone of my body to be like, well, I'll screw each one of my tenants very slowly, make them upgraded. Oh, you rent from me, but I don't guarantee that you can open your business. You want to open your business, you got to upgrade it. You got to buy the $25,000 HVAC system. Like, oh, thanks. So that's why I don't want to be a landlord. Is I'm too inclined to be like, let's do the right thing here. Let's get this up to code. Let's make this, like, I realize code is this. I'd rather be safer. That's why I know, like, when it's like we had to hire the earthquake architects and everything, it's like, this thing is built to withstand anything. We didn't use your crappier fasteners. And then once they looked into it, like, oh yeah, what you use is way better. We'll sign a letter. Yeah, it's ready. And it's like, yeah, I know it is. Because we go out of our way. I don't want to get crushed in my own fish store. I don't want my employees to get hurt. I don't want any of this. They're so used to dealing with people doing it totally the wrong way that I know the fatigue they're running into. And so we're doing everything we can. We're trying to work with them. To be honest, no one has made our lives hard. They're literally just going, hey, this is the law. We got to get the check marks, buddy. And I go, yeah, I know. All right, let's work on it. No one's going out of the way to do anything hard. And it's not, they don't even have to agree or disagree with the laws. They're just going, yeah, we just got to get that done. We're all ready to go. Like, yep, we will. It'll be fine. It's just, we're all excited for a fish store to expand, and we want it to happen sooner rather than later. Got to get all the ducks in a row. There's things we couldn't forecast, like not knowing about the permit situation. Don't have a permit, do have a permit. Did the landlords pull that permit? Didn't they? At first they didn't, now they have. And so it's like, oh, well, okay, landlords, you're doing your thing. I get it. And, but it's weird because the guy's going, I'm not sure we can even upgrade this system to do what you need it to do. But meanwhile, it passed permit inspection. It's like, so wait, which one is it? It was permitted, done correctly, but also it isn't correct. And yet the system it's in can't be made correct. How'd this pass the permit 2 years ago? Same law. Someone asleep at the wheel? Yeah. Corporate landlords are terrible. My old chain store with 200 stores couldn't convince our landlords to get rid of the feral birds and the leaks in the roof. Yeah. I mean, anytime you spend money as a landlord thing, you're usually costing yourself money, so I understand that, but you also don't get the, what would I call it? Like, you're not building a good customer relationship, I guess. Have I ever thought about creating an underground filter? Oh boy, howdy have I. Part of my 3D printing skills is to build some adapters and play with some things. Yeah, I've got some ideas. I got some parts. I want to adapt some parts. I want to play with some things. I want to figure out what I'm doing. And maybe someday we'll launch an underground filter if we can find a good way to ship it and not go broke. Ooh, let's see. 29 years as a cop. Last 19 years as a detective and crime scene investigator. I wonder if you love or hate crime shows. My dream is to work at a fish store or aquarium warehouse like the Co-op. Soon, I hope. Best retirement job ever. That's definitely like that meme, like had me in the first half. I was waiting for, I've got all this experience, and then he was going to lay into me of like, the reason why you have to do these code things is because I've seen some stuff, and that's why. Meanwhile, I just want to work at a fish store. It's kind of totally got me. I was waiting for him to like lay into me like, look, guy, you don't know what it's like out there. It turns out like, oh, okay, yeah. Working at a fish store can be awesome. We have Paul that works for us. He works 7 days a week. He works a different job for a different company. He's kind of a private person, so most during the week works there, and then he works for us on the weekends because he loves staying busy and then working at the fish store, and he's been doing it for like 5 years. So it's kind of amazing. I thought for sure like, this guy's crazy wanting to work 7 days a week, but I mean I do it too, but most people don't. And so I'm like, we'll see how long this lasts. And boy, howdy, has he proved me wrong. Because I just assume, like, I don't know, working at a fish was cool for a while, but hey, still doing it. Let's see. Being too good of a landlord can be a curse. My college kid tenants now expect my husband to come out and to the trash to the curb every week because he did it 2 weeks in a row, and now it became his job. I know that it happens to me in life anyway. Like, I let people take advantage of me, my kindness. Well, it's not even that. I don't stand up for myself enough when like enough is enough. So I wait for it to boil over and then I explode. And that's not a good skill set to have as a landlord. And so if I ever did it, which I wouldn't, I would farm that out to some company. Like, you be the faceless person that handles this, because I'd be like, oh, your dishwasher sucks? Well, we could fix that. Because all the experiences I've had as a renter throughout the years of just having problems, which I have had a couple good landlords, by the way. So maybe I'd be like them. That was pretty good, but who knows? I spent 21 years as a detective, retired, got a good job, or I got a job, didn't say good, but I assume it's good. Got a job at the local golf course. Find what makes you happy. Yeah. Yeah. Let's get back to fish here. Talk about landlords and all the stuff. All because we talked about store expansion. So, which was loosely fish related, and I hope to film a bunch. And honestly, I'm trying to figure out how we're going to lay out the expansion, because I kind of want to be able to seat like 20 or 30 people and have like these smaller, I'm going to call them little get-togethers. I don't know what to call them, where we might talk about a topic, or maybe we run a little auction, or we do a thing. But then I'm like, yeah, but I kind of need that space to sell this and this and this. Like, we need more retail space too. So we'll see if I can find the happy medium, or if it's like, well, we don't have enough space to... I so desperately want the theater above us to come available. I would do monthly meetings and talks there for sure if we could rent that. It'd be great. Let's see here. Am I running any tanks with an underground filter right now? No. Is that true? Yeah, technically not. I was for a little bit, but I'm not. I don't have any. Am I sure? Yeah, I'm sure. The ones I did have, I took back out, but they're on the cusp of being used at any moment. I do love underground filters, but I don't like how expensive they've gotten. I think there's some optimizations like an air collar and making them modular, and there's some things that I want, and so I just haven't. Sponge filters are really good and versatile. Underground filters are really good but not versatile. And yeah, I just haven't made it a priority to like, now that the foods are coming out, that's helping. Like, okay, we'll clean up the log jam. Doesn't make sense to be like, yeah, we have two types of filtration and haven't made a food yet. So now I can go, okay, what's next on our agenda? So we're spending some time starting to, like, there's samples, like here's Easy Root tabs, 20 count, compressed in a new tab type. I don't think we'll be using this container, but there's always a million tests going on in my fish room at all times. And most of them never make it to print, if you will, or to thing. But that's how you find the good products and how you make them better as you keep working with them. And my buddy who got me into aquariums, he texted me yesterday. He was setting up one of our CO2 systems that I gave him, and he's like, this is crazy, made in China, and yet I can read and understand the directions. And I go, I know. So often, that's one of the biggest differences. Is like, just make a good user manual, provide the support, and like, yeah, we make changes to the products, but a lot of people will literally just brand them themselves. Well, whatever you got on the shelf, slap my logo on it, we'll sell it. We put it through its paces. We make it better. Well, we make it better in the way I see it better. That doesn't always mean it's better for everybody, but I spend a lot of time making these little tweaks that delay us getting to market. But every once in a while, you get a banger. Like the Easy I keep saying easy because I want it to be easy so bad, but it's the Magic Nano food. Because easy, the magic part is like what it looks like brine shrimp and it does what it does, but easy fish food, like everyone like all fish food's easy. So we didn't go with easy, we went with magic because it is magic. Anyway, that one being such a winner really feels good knowing that I spent 3 years and way too many frustrating days. We gave up on food a couple of times. Like, I don't even like we were at the point where we were like, maybe we have to just tour factories in person and feed. I'm like, but how am I going to make sure that it does well in my tanks and doesn't stink and all that? Like yesterday, to be fair, I fed Hikari Massivore and I regret it. I'm like, God, the smell in my fish room is so bad. Why do I do this? I'm like, I wanted to use it up, and I'm like, oh, it smells so bad. And so I try, like people make comments about our food, which I've got some right here. It's potent. Like it's got krill. I think it smells good. I think it smells like fresh fish food, right? But there's some foods when you feed, like New Life Spectrum Thera A with lots of garlic. I like the food, kind of expensive, but your whole fish room smells like garlic, like garlic BO. You're just like, ooh, that's not a great thing. And so, not only is it like, do the fish want to eat it? Is it made out of quality ingredients? Is the price point right? Blah, blah, blah. It's also those things of like hardcore Aquarius, like the wife will lose her mind. Because if I'm in the fish room and I feed a garlic food and I'm here all day, my wife will be like, did you eat garlic? I'm like, no, I fed a garlic food in the fish room. It's like, whoa, that's strong. And so, there's all those little things from just being an Aquarius that I apply to the products as well. Someone has said in the video I fed too much food, and I tried to explain to them, they don't realize, like, this is 4 ounces of food. This is a lot of nano, right? But when you do, like, a pinch, so you grab a pinch, like, there's hundreds of pinches in there, but you put that in the water, it's going to look like it's everywhere. And so the analogy I gave them, which I don't know if they've read it yet, but the analogy I gave them was, imagine you take a cup of flour, and you, like, throw that in the air in your kitchen. It goes everywhere, right? But maybe a cup of flour makes 2 or 3 biscuits that you would eat. So even though the flour looked visually like that's an insane amount of flour, it might only be 2 or 3 biscuits worth that a human would eat. And that's what goes on in the fish room. When you put food in, especially like that Magic Nano, it looks like you've put the flour in, so it looks like you fed an insane amount. But when you actually like weigh it out, you're like, it's a tiny amount of food. Because they made a comment like, and this guy's still going to feed later in the day? And it's like, yeah, a little bit goes a crazy long way, and you have to think about food weight to fish, right? And if you don't get them enough food, they don't grow, they don't look their best and everything. And so multiple feedings, and there's a lot goes on with it, but hundreds of pinches come out of 4 ounces. It's not like I'm like, here, give them a half, give them 2 ounces. Like, that'd be way too much. Instead, it's like, oh, I gave them 0.02 of an ounce for a 40-gallon breeder. Like, that's not that much food, actually. If you weighed like a 1 cube of frozen bloodworms, you go, visually it doesn't look like a lot, but it's way more weight than the nano would be. And I probably need to do a video about that of like, here's a wafer, here's a frozen cube, here's dry weight Magic Nano, here's dry weight brine shrimp eggs. And be like, visually they look crazy and insane different, but they were all the same weight. Like, what? Yeah. So, there you go. Hopefully that brought some clarity to it. I get told every day by Kirk I feed too much. I am feeding all the fish. Hey, I honestly, I truly believe this. I think this would go over a lot better if I was like a super fit, skinny person. I truly believe that we are underfeeding fish as a hobby. In general, 9 out of 10 people underfeeding. And it's because they need to eat several times a day. Most fish spend their whole day looking for food. Now, there are people that way overfeed. There's people that are like, 3 handfuls of food for my Oscar. Like, okay, that is too much. But in general, these fish are crazy active. They're always out and about. They're always moving. And they want to eat several meals throughout the day because they're an active fish. Where maybe a catfish not as active, right? But in general, that's one of the biggest differences between a breeder and a non-breeder is feeding enough food, changing enough water, and a fish is supposed to eat 2% of its body weight every day. And if you've got a 2 or 3 pound Oscar, right, which is, you could have a 10-ounce Oscar or a 10-inch Oscar that's like 3-4 pounds. Well, maybe like 3 pounds. And if it's supposed to be eating 2% of that, like what is that? That's going to be, let me see, 16 ounces times 3. It's 48 times 2%, 0.02, is almost an ounce. So it needs to eat like an ounce of food a day. Well, that means that Oscar eats 1/4 of this container every day. I don't think most people feed the one Oscar they have 1/4 of this a day. That's like a 1/4 cup a day. I don't think they do. I think they go, yeah, you get 20 pellets, and it's like, oh, that's 1/16 of a cup. So yeah, I think we're doing it wrong. By the way, I will admit, working in 3D modeling software, I'm 100% bought in on metric system. I watch tutorials and they're like, yeah, we're going to set it to 3 3/4 inches. And I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. Like, just set it in a number in millimeters. Like, it's way finer accuracy. So I'm hoping that by learning the 3D printing software, I will be able to adopt the metric system, because I will admit it's superior. It's superior in every way, other than I've got 41 years of knowing our stupid system, and that is more work to learn it than not. But learning it over there, I'm like, yeah, clearly a better system. And so I know that just because when we're dealing in fish foods, like this happens, this is a wrong package. I keep giving away mine. I ordered some more for myself. Yeah, right here. I keep giving these away. People are like, oh, you don't have it? And I'm like, here, take it. Like Bob and Dean needed some more. I'm like, here, just take it. But 4 ounces, 113 grams. And when we're buying stuff and doing stuff, they always want to know like volume and metric system and all of that. So slowly but surely, I'm learning it more and more, which will help the majority of the world. Which Leftio says metric, boo. I get it, because it's really hard when someone says to me like, yeah, 13 centimeters. I'm like, that's not English, right? But more and more, I could be like, oh, 130 centimeters. Like, hold on, that's like this roughly. And I'm even, I got my calipers here because I'm getting real accurate. I even set that to millimeters because it's an easier system to work with. And I know it's always been easier. It's just, if I'm going to learn something, let me learn it in, it's an easier thing to work with in 3D printing software. So I will never switch to Celsius. That one's hard. That one's hard for me. Just because the conversion rate's so trippy. There's no like with liters to gallons, it's very loosely like 4-to-1. 4 liters is a gallon, right? So, you got a 40 breeder, yeah, it's a 160 liter tank. But reality is, when you do the math, like, it's only 132 liters, idiot. Like, yeah, I know, but when it comes to Celsius, I think there's a couple of formulas. So it's like above freezing one formula, below freezing is another formula, and then like if you get way down in the negatives, isn't it the same? Like negative 102 Celsius is like also negative 102 degrees or something crazy. I don't know. I don't know enough. I just know that anytime I look at it and go, man, this is not an easy conversion. I am always going to be terrible at this for that one. Viewers complain about how I put water in a tank. 98% of viewers are great. 2% just go nuts. Just want to complain. Yeah, well. Anyone doing something different? Be a Canadian and use both? Yeah. The average hot dog is 150 millimeters long. Damn hot dog math. There it is. Yeah, negative 40 is both for both Celsius and Fahrenheit. My brain can't wrap it around that of like, wait, so it's a different thing at like above freezing, and like negative starts becoming equal. Like, what is going on? So my brain just goes, shutting down. We're going to keep using Fahrenheit until basically one of you will give me a system that'll stick in my brain. Like, well, that makes sense. I could do that all day long. But that hasn't happened yet. So it does happen fairly often, though, that you guys will leave a comment and I'll be like, well, no one's ever explained it that way. I totally get it now. I will just do that. So, yeah. Let's see here. My husband's a carpenter, so he's good with fractions of measurements. Me, not so much. Yeah. Well, what I don't like is, so here's my main thing. When I'm measuring things, like I've got a little thing right here for my desk, right? When I'm measuring something and I'm like, hold on, let me measure. Okay, it's 5. And then it's like, okay, it's over a little half inch. Like, how many marks is that? This one goes to 16ths. Okay, it's 5 6/16. And then I got to like triple check before I go, right, Dean? We'll come to that. Where you flip it and all of a sudden you could be like, oh yeah, just set it to 15 millimeters. Like, that is so much. Well, that's not equivalent, I guess. So the equivalent would be, let's see, 5.5. We'll just do this. If I flip it over, would be, that's what, 1.4 centimeters. I don't know. I bought some rulers in millimeters. I just find it easier to be like, give me round numbers instead of fractions. And then I want each number labeled. When you're cutting a bunch of stuff, I always hate, like, after like the 9th cut out of 12 parts, you'd be like, dang it, I went on the quarter instead of on the 8th. I gotta recut this one. So 25.4 millimeters per inch. Remember that one, people? Yeah, real easy. I mean, it kind of is if you just do 25 per inch. Now you know, like, 4 inches is 100 millimeters. Like, that actually is close enough to when you're talking about aquariums, and not if you're actually measuring and cutting, but that's like the gallons to liters, like 4 to 1. Like, that's actually pretty easy. Do red root floaters have as long of roots as frogbit? Not in my experience, no. I feel like red root maxes out like that-ish, where frogbit I've had real long, if it's depending on the container type I've been using. To heck with imperial and metric. We use TDS for everything. I should start doing that. Yeah, I'm running an 800 TDS aquarium. Like, no. I don't. What size? No, I don't size. Just TDS. When you do your water changes and your fish start changing colors because they're happy. Yeah. Rainbows are the best then. We start flashing. All right, we got about 4 minutes left. Who's got a question that I have been neglecting the whole time that I could answer for you? Because there's always someone going, he's not answering me. Ooh, someone was talking about filterless tanks, how they're magic. Yeah, my new weapon that I want to use, that makes it sound like I want to do battle, because I really don't care, but I kind of want people to watch Chuck Rambo's talk from yesterday when they run a filterless tank and be like, this is the evolution of the hobby. And like heat and then filtration, right? And be like, why did we advance that hobby? Oh, because we got better results. Like, it's not that you can't keep them without all of those things. It's that it literally got easier, and that's what the general public wanted. Like, watch that video. Like, you don't have to have, 10 FX6s like a cichlid keeper, but also like an airstone, a light, some heat, a tiny filter. You get a lot of reward for your investment there, I feel like. But I do believe this, and I'm sure this is out there, but I actually believe there's space to be a big YouTuber where all you do is bowls. Not jarariums, nothing like that. Just do different bowls, anywhere from like half a gallon to 5 gallon bowls. Have like 30 of them, scape them, make them look halfway cool, breed some guppies, because there's still a huge population out there that have betta bowls and just stuff like that, and they would flock to you. And they would just be like, oh, and you could be like, yeah, this miniature sponge filter, this tiny heater, this nano light, this is how I do the water changes, this is the food I use. It would all be very in what they're wanting to do. And so there is a huge market out there that is not, in my opinion, not covered well. And the trick is to only do that. Just like we only do planet tanks. That's all we do. Too often people start doing more and more and more and more, and they lose the original audience they built. And so if someone built their whole platform on all I do is aquarium bowls, and that's all they ever did, I think they'd actually do very, very well, because there'd be a constant influx of new people coming in. And I believe it's not so much that bowls are bad. It's there's not the education out there to keep them successfully. And so if you had now all of a sudden all of this material on how to be successful and really do a good job, I think we could break down some of the barriers, because I do believe that, let's say you had a heat mat under the bowl and you had a miniature sponge filter and you had a 2-gallon wide bowl and a betta, I think it actually probably would thrive much more so than like a 10-gallon with the wrong hang on back and some other things. And so it's all about just getting the right information and different techniques and a rapport with the person that wants to learn and all that. And I do believe that there is a big demographic out there that would totally embrace that. And you would have to you'd always be fighting down, like, you can't do that. You would just have to show through, like, yeah, but look at these 30 aquariums bowls. They look amazing, right? And look how happy the fish are. And you would, over time, you would build the, like, yeah, and this betta died at the age of 6. It's fine. Like, that's what it's supposed to die. And you'd have to get past the naysayers. But I do believe that would be a channel that would do really, really well. And because I thought, like, I know I can keep bowls. I know Dean can keep bowls. A lot of people can keep a bowl with some fish in it, and it would do really well on shrimp and some other things. But no one does it because of the backlash the internet has for it, of like, how dare you? In the reality, I think it's fine. I do think it's fine with the right education. If you spent the same $200 to set up the world's best 3-gallon bowl versus a 5-gallon aquarium, I honestly think the bowl would be all the same. I think it'd be just fine. So I think the difference is, like, well, someone that gets a bowl and does absolutely nothing, that's not as good as someone who does all of this. Like, yes, of course that is right. But, $100,000 kitchen with all the equipment in the world doesn't make me a good chef versus my wife. My wife, you could put her, like, on a barbecue. You could give her, like, the less you give her, she'll still whip my butt every time. So, and I think a lot of times we go into that going like, oh, well, most people are going to do it this way. Like, it's all skill. It's all, if you have a great day in an apartment, might be living the best life because you go on 100-mile jogs every day and its life is so enriched versus someone who's got a complete farm, but it's like tied to a chain all day, right? There's all the factors, all the outside stuff that doesn't get shown on the internet, all the context that's missing from everything on the internet is the problem that we have with almost everything. Context missing from everything. So, fishbowl's already trending. Yep. Yeah, having bowls and jars, and I literally could keep something alive in this Diet Coke can. I could cut the top, and I could literally be like, look, I got a shrimp colony going. Like, once you reach a level and you're like, it would be work. There's no doubt it'd be work. I'm like, well, I better change a little water every day. I better do a little thing. Like, let me get the little light going, a little bit of plant. Like, yes, you could make almost anything happen. And then you feel like, no, the metal would kill. I'm like, well, actually, there's plastic inside of metal cans, so that's why it doesn't taste like metal, and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's always a million nuances and everything. But then but doesn't mean that, like, oh, you've never had an aquarium? Like, yeah, just set one up in a Diet Coke can, you'll be fine. I'm not advocating that either. But if I had 180 videos on how to keep fish in Diet Coke cans, you're more likely, if you watched them all, to have a better result. You cut your hand every day. Dean and I would have videos on how to, like, curl the edge and stuff. Like, Dean and I should do that. We should spend way too much time perfecting a Diet Coke aquarium. Teach you how to put in a viewing window. Like, we'll get a piece of acrylic cut, we'll silicone it in. Then I'll get, like, a little bulkhead so I can do auto water changes. Like, just go because you can apply. That's the thing about aquariums, is once you know the skills, you can apply it to any size. Whether it's 1,500 gallons, 800 gallons, a quarter gallon, a thimble, you can basically take the principles you've learned on all the things and just apply it to any of the sizes. And so that's the important part that I think we miss a lot of times, is like, you've got less room for error the smaller you go, but also less room for error kind of the bigger you go too. So, like, I freak out way more about drilling my 1,500 gallon aquarium, it's $30,000, than I do a 10 gallon. Right? Like, it's actually harder to do that. And it actually is physically harder. Like, we'll break drills, we'll overheat, you'll have different challenges getting through 1.5 inches of acrylic than you will a 1/4 inch of acrylic or something like that. So, but in general, all the principles still apply to all of these vessels with water. And if you treat them the same way, a lot of times you get similar results. So you're like, well, I made a little custom filter. and I do an auto water change system, and I'm doing this, and I'm feeding live foods, and I'm buying this, and I'm doing that. And the reality is, you would get pretty good results, I think. So hopefully that's not too off-putting to people, but I believe it. Do I have a good strategy for raising up mystery snails? I don't. I've never really latched on to like, ooh, I love mystery snails. I always just let them. I lowered the water level down, let them lay up on under the rim, and then they'd crawl back down to the water. And I didn't keep fish, and I would just make more. So, yep, it's 5 p.m. My software has frozen over here, so we'll see if it'll even let me shut this thing down. I will be seeing you next Sunday. I gotta spend a little bit of time after the live stream, hopefully when it's done rendering, to show YouTube how it's broken and why people are getting ads. And hopefully we'll get this fixed for you guys, because I don't believe you should have to watch ads that I'm not getting. Well, maybe I am getting paid for them, and that's not even the point. I don't want you guys to have to watch more ads when there's plenty of product placement from our own stuff that we sell you guys, and you support us with memberships and all the things. Takeaway is participate on the forum, participate everywhere you can. Like, subscribe, do all the things, share with your friends, make your grandma watch, buy all of our stuff 10 times in a row. And sign up for texts if you want to be notified when we go live, when we launch new products or new videos. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll be able to launch a new product this week. Depends if the container ever arrives. It already got delayed once. Womp womp. So thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next Sunday. And yeah, I might do a special live stream around Thanksgiving, a longer one. So we'll see if I can put that together and when and where. And I'll be sure to let you know. We'll see you around. Feed all your fish more. Do it. It also feeds the plants. Let me find the button. End stream. It's going to work. End. Maybe we're